Listen and listen carefully. There is a reason you did not scroll past this. There is a reason your eyes paused here, your breath slowed, and something deep within you whispered, "Wait, this is for me." That was not coincidence. That was not curiosity. That was a divine interruption. He watches it, he speaks now. Archangel Michael stands at the edge of this moment, not distant, not symbolic, but present. His voice does not echo in noise. It pierces through it. And what he reveals is this: you were not supposed to find this message unless tomorrow mattered more than you realize. Think about your day for a second. The randomness, the scrolling, the distractions, the routine. And yet somehow, through all of that, you landed here. Why now? Why this message? Why you? Because something is about to happen tomorrow. And deep down you already feel it. You may not have words for it yet. You may not fully understand it. But there has been a tension building inside you. A quiet pull. A subtle unrest. A decision forming. A move you are about to make. Something you've been thinking about, maybe even playing. And you told yourself, it's just a normal choice. But heaven says otherwise. This is not just a decision. This is a spiritual event. And that is why the interruption had to happen now. He leans closer, you would have missed it, Michael says, if we did not step in. There are moments in life when time slows, not physically, but spiritually. Moments when the unseen world draws near, when angels shift positions, when divine attention focuses on a single soul. This is one of those moments, because what you are about to do tomorrow is not small. It carries weight. It carries consequence. It carries ripple effects that extend far beyond what your natural mind can calculate. And here's what should stop you in your tracks: the spirit world is watching. Not in fear, but in shock. Shock, not because you are weak, but because you are powerful and you don't fully realize it yet. Shock, because the move you are about to make has the potential to either unlock something extraordinary or delay something sacred. And the question echoing through the spiritual realm right now is this: do they know what they are about to do? Because if you truly knew, you would not treat tomorrow casually. You would not move without awareness. You would not act out of emotion, pressure, or habit. You would pause. You would listen. You would align. There is something about your life that has always been different. You felt it, haven't you? That sense that you're not meant to follow the crowd. That your decisions seem to carry more weight than others. That when you ignore your intuition, things shift in ways you didn't expect. That's not in your head. That's because your life is spiritually marked. And when a marked life approaches a critical decision point, heaven pays attention. That is why this message feels intense. That is why it feels urgent. That is why something inside you is saying, don't ignore this. Because you were not meant to walk blindly into tomorrow. You were meant to be awake, fully aware, spiritually aligned, protected not just by chance but by understanding. Michael's presence does not bring fear, it brings clarity. And right now, clarity is what you need more than comfort. Because comfort would let you scroll. Comfort would let you ignore this. But clarity stops you. Clarity confronts you. Clarity prepares you. And so he speaks against he says, because what you are about to discover will change how you see tomorrow forever. Something is coming. And you are standing right at the edge of it. Type "I am ready" in the comments if you feel this message. Blessing code 2222 is now activated around your path. There is movement not here, not in the physical world you can touch and see, but in the realm that surrounds you at all times, the realm you feel but cannot fully explain. And right now, in that unseen dimension, something unusual is happening. There is a pause, a stillness, a gathering, because what you are about to do tomorrow has created a ripple so unexpected that even the spiritual realm has taken notice. He watches closely, and he speaks again. Archangel Michael reveals that this is not a normal moment in your life. This is not just another decision stacked among hundreds you've made before. No, this one carries a different frequency. This one has stirred something higher. And what shocks the spirit world is not simply the action itself, but the fact that you are standing on the edge of it without fully realizing its power. You see, heaven is not surprised by weakness. Heaven understands human struggle. It expects hesitation, doubt, even fear. But what heaven did not expect was this exact choice forming within you at this exact time. Not because it is wrong by default, but because of what it will trigger if left unexamined. There are angels assigned to your path, not metaphorically but intentionally. Watchers, protectors, messengers, and in this moment, they are not silent. They are observing you with heightened attention because they can see what you cannot yet see. They can see where this path leads. They can see the doors it touches, the people it affects, the timing it interrupts or aligns. And what has caused this shock is the contrast between who you are called to be and the decision you are about to make. Michael's voice carries both authority and urgency as he reveals this truth. You are not ordinary, and therefore your decisions are not ordinary. That is the part many people never understand about their own lives. They think they can move casually, react emotionally, decide impulsively, and everything will simply fall into place. But when a life is marked, when a soul carries purpose, when destiny has already been written in higher realms, then even the smallest decision becomes amplified. And that is what is happening now. The spirit realm is not shocked because you are incapable. It is shocked because you are capable of so much more than what this decision reflects. There is a version of you that heaven has already seen. A version that is aligned, focused, elevated. A version that walks with clarity instead of confusion. And that version is closer than you think, closer than you feel. But tomorrow has the power to either step you into that version or pull you slightly away from it. Not forever, but long enough to delay something important. And that is where the urgency comes from. Because delay is subtle. It does not announce itself loudly. It does not feel like failure. It feels like just another choice. But in the spirit, delay shifts timelines. It reroutes opportunities. It postpones encounters that were meant to happen sooner. And the angels see this. They see the intersection you are standing at. They see the weight of your next step. And they are asking, not in fear but in intensity, will they recognize this moment? Because recognition changes everything. If you recognize that tomorrow is not ordinary, you will move differently. You will think differently. You will pause where you would have right. You will question what you would have accepted. You will listen more deeply to the quiet voice within you that has been trying to guide you. And voice, you've heard it before. That subtle feeling that something is slightly off. That inner hesitation that doesn't come with clear logic but carries undeniable weight. That moment where everything in you says, wait, think again. That is not confusion. That is communication. And the shock in the spirit realm is that you have been hearing it but not fully trusting it. Michael steps forward in this moment, not to condemn you, but to awaken you. His presence does not bring judgment. It brings revelation. He wants you to understand that you are not being watched to be criticized, but to be protected. Not to be controlled, but to be guided. Because what is forming tomorrow is not random. It is connected. Connected to something you prayed for. Connected to something you asked for. Connected to something you are still waiting to see manifest in your life. And here is the truth that must land deeply within you. Sometimes the very thing you are about to do can either accelerate your answer or quietly postpone it. That is why heaven is paying attention. That is why the angels are not passive. That is why this moment feels heavier than it should. Because it is not just about what you do. It is about what your action unlocks. Michael's voice lowers, but the intensity does not fade. Do not underestimate this, he says. Because what seems small to you is not small where we stand. And right now, you are being given something rare. Awareness before action. Clarity before consequence. A moment to see before you step. Most people never get this. They move, then realize. They act, they reflect. But you are being stopped before it happens. That is not coincidence. That is protection. And the shock in the spirit realm is beginning to shift now, not into concern, but into anticipation. Because the moment you become aware, the outcome can change. Type ISE clearly in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 3333 is now activated around your decisions. There is a weight resting on tomorrow, not visible, not measurable, but deeply real. You may wake up thinking it is just another day, another sequence of familiar routines, another set of choices that blend into the rhythm of your life. But in the spirit, tomorrow is already marked. It is circled. It is hidden. It is standing apart from all the other days that came before it. And the reason is simple, yet profound. What you are about to decide carries the power to shift your direction in ways you cannot yet fully comprehend. He sees the path before you, and he speaks with precision. Archangel Michael reveals that tomorrow is not about pressure. It is about positioning. It is not about fear, it is about awareness. But awareness brings responsibility. Because once you know that a moment matters, you can no longer treat it casually. And that is where many people miss their turning points. They do not fail because they are incapable. They fail because they do not recognize the weight of the moment they are standing in. You have stood at crossroads before. Moments where you felt uncertain. Moments where you hesitated. Moments where something inside you whispered that your choice mattered more than it seemed. But this is different. This carries a deeper imprint. Because what is unfolding tomorrow is connected to something you have been waiting for, something you have been praying for, something you have been asking for. Even if you stop speaking it out loud, there is a thread that connects your past prayers to your present decisions. And tomorrow, that thread becomes active. Michael's voice carries a clarity that cuts through every distraction. This is not just a choice, he says. This is alignment or misalignment. And that distinction changes everything. Because alignment does not always feel dramatic. It often feels quiet, subtle, always ordinary. But when you are aligned, things begin to move in ways you cannot force. Doors open without struggle. Conversations unfold without resistance. Timing begins to cooperate instead of compete with you. But misalignment is just as subtle. It does not always feel wrong in the moment. It can feel justified. It can feel logical. It can even feel comfortable. But its impact reveals itself over time, in delays that cannot be explained, in opportunities that almost happen but never fully materialize. And that is why tomorrow carries weight. Because the decision you are about to make will not just affect what happens immediately. It will influence what unfolds next, and what unfolds after that, It is not isolated. It is connected. There is something you have been moving toward, whether consciously or unconsciously. A shift, a breakthrough, a moment of clarity. And tomorrow stands directly in the path of that movement. It will either accelerate you forward or slow you down just enough to change the timing of everything that follows. And timing is sacred. Michael reveals that in the spirit, timing is not random. It is orchestrated. There are moments designed for connection, moments designed for opportunity, moments designed for elevation. But those moments are sensitive. They respond to alignment. They respond to awareness. They respond to whether you are listening or reacting. And right now, you are being given the rare chance to step into tomorrow with full awareness. Not guessing, not rushing, not reacting, but choosing. There is something else you need to understand. The weight you feel is not meant to burden you. It is meant to wake you. Because when you feel the weight of a moment, you begin to treat it with intention. You begin to slow down. You begin to ask yourself questions you might normally ignore. Questions like, why am I really doing this? What is driving this decision? Is this aligned with who I am becoming, or just who I have been? Those questions are not small. They are gateways, and the answers you give them will shape what tomorrow becomes. Michael steps closer, his presence steady and unwavering. You are not being asked to be perfect, he says. You are being asked to be aware. That is the difference. Réveillon creates power. Awareness creates power. Because when you are aware, you can adjust. You can pause. You can redirect. You can choose differently if something feels off. You are not locked into a path unless you move blindly into it. And right now, you are not blind. You are being shown. You are being guided. You are being given a moment that many people never receive, the chance to understand the significance of a decision before it is made. Tomorrow is not just coming, it is waiting. Waiting to see how you will respond. Waiting to see if you will move with intention or impulse. Waiting to see if you will trust the deeper voice within you or override it for the sake of comfort, habit, or pressure. And here is the truth that must settle within you. This moment matters because you matter. Your path matters. Your direction matters. Your alignment matters. And tomorrow is not separate from your destiny. It is part of it. So do not rush toward it. Do not dismiss it. Do not treat it like every other day. Because it is not. It is a doorway. And how you step through it will determine what opens next. Type I choose alignment in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 4444 is now activated around your path. As this message settles into your spirit, understand this: every time a truth like this reaches someone, a light is ignited in a place that was once dim. This is not about supporting a channel. This is about fueling a mission that reaches souls standing at their own crossroads. The Lord declares, "Cast your seed upon the waters, and in due time, it will return to you multiplied." And right now, you feel that pull, that quiet knowing inside you saying, "I want to be part of this." When you release your seed through Super Thanks or through the PayPal link in the description, you are not giving. You are sowing into transformation, into awakening, into divine timing for someone else. This is your moment to act, not later, not eventually, but now, while the Spirit is moving. What you release will return to you in ways only heaven can orchestrate. Step forward and let your obedience become someone else's answered prayer. There is more happening around you than what your eyes can see, more than what your ears can hear, more than what your mind can logically process. And right now, As you stand on the edge of tomorrow, there is a hidden battle unfolding, quiet, strategic, and deeply focused on one thing: your next move. He does not raise his voice, yet his presence commands attention. Archangel Michael reveals that not everything surrounding you is neutral. Not every influence is harmless. Not every thought is your own. There are layers to this moment that go far beyond the surface of what you think you are about to do. Because while you are considering your decision in the natural, there are forces in the unseen realm already reacting to it. This is where many people misunderstand their lives. They believe every decision exists in isolation, untouched by anything beyond their own reasoning. But that is not how the spiritual realm operates. Every choice creates movement. Every step sends a signal. Every moment of hesitation or action shifts something beyond what you can measure. And right now, your signal is strong. That is why there is attention on you. Not random attention. Not general observation. Focused attention. Michael speaks with clarity, removing the illusion of neutrality. You are not standing alone in this moment, he says. There are forces that observe, respond, and react to what you are about to do. This does not mean you are in danger. It means you are significant. Because significance attracts attention. When a life carries purpose, when a path holds potential, when a decision connects to something greater, it does not go unnoticed. And that is what you are experiencing now. There is a quiet tension building, not because something is wrong, but because something is important. There are two kinds of forces at work in moments like this. One seeks to guide, protect, and align. The other seeks to distract, confuse, and redirect. Neither operates loudly. Neither announces itself clearly. Both move subtly, and the difference between them is not always obvious in the moment. That is why discernment becomes critical. Because the hidden battle is not about dramatic confrontation. It is about influence. It is about which voice you listen to. It is about which feeling you trust. It is about whether you pause long enough to recognize what is guiding your decision. Michael steps closer, his presence steady and unwavering. Pay attention to the source, he says. Because not every urge comes from clarity. Not every thought comes from truth. Not every feeling comes from alignment. Some are reactions. Some are echoes of past patterns. Some are shaped by pressure, expectation, or habit. And if you do not slow down, you may mistake one for the other. That is how the hidden battle operates. Not through force, but through influence. Not through control, but through suggestion. And right now, as tomorrow approaches, those influences are intensifying. You may feel it as restlessness. You may notice it as overthinking. You may sense it as a subtle urgency to act quickly, without fully sitting with your decision. That is not random. That is pressure. And pressure often pushes people into choices they would not make if they were fully still. Michael's voice sharpens, not in fear but in focus. Do not let urgency override awareness, he says. Because urgency can be misleading. It can make something feel immediate when it is not. It can create the illusion that you must decide quickly, when in truth, you need to pause. It can blur the line between what feels necessary and what is actually aligned. And in moments like this, that blur becomes dangerous, not because it leads to destruction, but because it leads to misdirection. And misdirection, even slight misdirection, can change the course of what follows. There is something else happening in this hidden battle that you need to understand. Observation creates anticipation. The moment your decision began forming, the moment your thoughts started moving in a certain direction, The moment you began leaning toward a particular action, that moment sent a signal, and that signal was received, not to control you, but to respond to you. That is why the atmosphere around you may feel different. That is why interactions feel slightly altered. That is why certain thoughts seem louder than usual. Because the moment itself has become active. And when a moment becomes active, everything connected to it begins to shift. Michael's presence does not waver. You are being watched, he says, but not to be judged, to be guarded. A distinction matters. Because fear would make you freeze. But awareness allows you to move with precision. You are not here to panic. You are here to perceive. To notice what feels aligned and what does not. To recognize when something is pushing you versus when something is guiding you. To feel the difference between pressure and clarity. Because clarity does not rush you. Clarity steadies you. Clarity gives you space to think, to breathe, to understand. And right now, that is what you need. Not speed, not reaction, not impulse, but clarity. The hidden battle is not something you fight outwardly. It is something you navigate inwardly. It is the quiet decision to pause instead of rush, to listen instead of react, to question instead of assume. And that is where your power lies. Because the moment you become aware of the battle, you are no longer controlled by it. You are no longer influenced blindly. You begin to choose with intention. And that changes everything. Michael's voice lowers, but the authority remains. Stay aware, he says, because what you do next will not just reflect your decision, it will reveal your alignment. And alignment is what determines what happens after tomorrow. Type "I discern" clearly in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 5555 is now surrounding your awareness. There comes a moment when guidance is no longer gentle, when it shifts from a whisper to a command. This is that moment. The air around you is no longer neutral. The silence is no longer empty, and the choice before you is no longer something you can approach casually. Archangel Michael steps forward now, not as a distant observer, but as a protector who has seen what lies ahead, and his message carries a weight that cannot be ignored. He does not suggest. He does not hint. He warns. Do not move blindly. Those words are not spoken to create fear. They are spoken to awaken precision. Because blindness in this moment is not about lack of sight. It is about moving without awareness, acting without alignment, choosing without understanding the deeper consequences tied to your action. And that is exactly what must not happen now. You have reached a point where instinct alone is not enough. Habit is not enough. Even past experience is not enough. Because what you are facing tomorrow is not identical to anything you have faced before. It may look familiar on the surface. It may feel like a situation you've handled before. But beneath it, something is different. Something is layered. Something is connected to a deeper outcome. And that is why Michael intervenes. He has seen too many moments like this. Moments where a person stood on the edge of something significant, yet treated it like it was ordinary. Moments where awareness was available, but ignored. Moments where clarity tried to rise, but was overridden by impulse, emotion, or pressure. And in those moments, the cost was not always immediate, but it was real. That is what he is preventing now. Because moving blindly does not always look reckless. Sometimes it looks calm. Sometimes it looks confident. Sometimes it even looks logical. But beneath that surface, there is a lack of connection to what truly matters in the moment. There is a disconnection from the deeper awareness that should be guiding the decision. Michael's voice steadies, carrying a tone that demands your attention. Slow down, he says. Because speed is not your ally right now. This is where many people make their mistake. They feel the pressure to act. They feel the need to respond. They feel the urgency to decide quickly, as if delay will cost them something. But in moments like this, speed becomes the very thing that leads them off course. Because speed removes space, and space is where clarity lives. Without space, you cannot fully examine your intention. You cannot fully question your reasoning. You cannot fully feel whether something is aligned or not. You simply move, and in moving, you commit to a direction without fully understanding it. That is blindness, and that is what must be avoided. There is something forming in your mind right now. A plan, a response, a decision you are leaning toward. And on the surface, it may seem justified. It may even seem necessary. But Michael urges you to look deeper. Not at what the decision appears to be, but at what is driving it. Is it clarity or is it pressure? Is it alignment or is it habit? Is it truth or is it reaction? These questions are not optional. They are essential. Because the source of your decision determines the outcome it produces. If your decision is rooted in clarity, you will lead to stability. If it is rooted in pressure, it will lead to imbalance. If it is rooted in alignment, it will open doors. If it is rooted in reaction, it will create detours. And right now, you are standing at the exact point where that distinction matters most. Michael's presence intensifies, not to overwhelm you, but to anchor you. You are being given time, he says. Use it. Time, in this moment, is not something to rush through. It is something to step into, to sit with, to allow your thoughts to settle so your awareness can rise. Because when your mind is loud, your clarity is quiet. But when your mind becomes still, clarity begins to speak. And clarity is what will protect you. There is also something else you must understand. Blindness is not always self-created. Sometimes it is influence, subtle suggestions, external voices, internal doubts. All of these can cloud your perception without you realizing it. They can make something feel right when it is not fully aligned. They can make something feel urgent when it does not require immediate action. That is why you must detach from noise. Not permanently, but long enough to hear clearly. Michael's voice lowers, but it becomes sharper. Do not let others decide your alignment, he says. Because external influence is one of the strongest forces in moments like this. Expectations, opinions, pressure from people who do not fully understand your path. All of these can push you toward a decision that feels easier in the moment, but heavier in the long run. You must return to your center, to the place where your decision is not shaped by fear, approval, or avoidance, but by truth. And truth does not rush you. Truth grounds you. Truth steadies you. Truth gives you the confidence to pause, even when everything around you is pushing you to move. That is the posture you need now. Not reaction, not avoidance, but awareness. Because awareness allows you to see what is real, not just what is immediate. Michael steps back slightly, but his presence does not fade. You are not being restricted, he says. You are being protected. That is the difference you must hold on to. This warning is not here to stop you from acting. It is here to ensure that when you do act, you do so with full clarity. Because once you move, the moment shifts. Once you decide, the path begins to unfold. And at that point, adjustment becomes more difficult. So this right now is your window. Your moment to see before you step. To understand before you act. to align before you move. Do not waste it. Do not rush past it. Do not ignore it. Because what you are about to do tomorrow must not be done blindly. Type "I move with clarity" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 6666 is now activated around your next step. There is a pattern in your life, one that has quietly followed you through different seasons, different decisions, different moments that felt unrelated on the surface, yet carried the same underlying thread. It is subtle. It does not always reveal itself immediately. But if you look closely, if you truly reflect, you will begin to see it. The same type of situation appearing in different forms. The same emotional pull. The same internal conflict. The same kind of decision that seems familiar, even when the details change. And now you are standing in it again. Archangel Michael does not speak this to accuse you. He speaks this to awaken you. Because what is happening tomorrow is not just a new moment. It is a repeated opportunity. An opportunity that has appeared before, perhaps in a slightly different shape, perhaps under different circumstances, but with the same core choice at its center. And this time it matters more. You have seen this before, he says, even if you did not recognize it then. That is the truth that begins to settle within you. There is something about this decision that feels familiar. Something about the way it is forming, the way it is pulling at you, the way it is asking for your response. And that familiarity is not coincidence. It is pattern. Patterns are not random. They are formed through repetition, reinforced through choices, and sustained through lack of awareness. And the most powerful thing about a pattern is this: it continues until it is recognized. And right now you are being given the chance to recognize it. This is where your awareness becomes your turning point. Because tomorrow is not just about what you will do. It is about whether you will repeat what you have done before or finally choose differently. Michael's presence sharpens, not in pressure, but in clarity. This is your interruption point, he says. That phrase carries weight. An interruption point is where a cycle can be broken, where momentum can be redirected, where something that has quietly continued in the background of your life can finally come to an end. But interruption requires awareness. Without awareness, patterns continue effortlessly. They repeat themselves so smoothly that you don't even realize you are reliving the same outcome in a different form. Think about the moments in your past where you made a decision that felt right at the time but later revealed consequences you did not expect. Moments where you said, "I should have listened to that feeling." Moments where something inside you hesitated, but you moved forward anyway. Those moments were not failures. They were signals. Signals pointing to a pattern that had not yet been fully understood. And now that pattern stands in front of you again. But this time, you are not unaware. You are not guessing. You are not moving without insight. You are being shown. That is what makes this moment different. Because once a pattern is seen, it cannot be unseen. And once it is understood, you are no longer bound to repeat it. Michael's voice steadies, grounding you in this truth. You are not stuck, he says. You are at a choice point. That distinction matters. Because many people believe patterns define them. They believe that because something has happened before, it will continue to happen again. They begin to expect the same outcome, the same feeling, the same result. And in that expectation, they unconsciously recreate it. But you are not locked into repetition. You are standing at the edge of change. And change does not come from force. It comes from awareness followed by intentional action. There is something within you that already knows what this pattern is. You may not have fully articulated it, but you feel it. That quiet recognition, that subtle realization that this moment is not entirely new, that there is something about it that connects to your past in a way you cannot ignore. That feeling is truth rising, and truth is what breaks patterns. But here is the part you must understand clearly. Breaking a pattern does not always feel comfortable, because patterns are familiar. Even when they lead to outcomes you do not want, they feel known, predictable, safe in their own way. And choosing differently requires stepping into something unfamiliar. It requires trusting clarity over comfort. It requires choosing alignment over habit. That is where the real decision lies. Not just in what you do, but in how you choose to do it. Michael steps closer again, his presence unwavering. Do not let familiarity guide you, he says. Because familiarity can be misleading. It can make something feel right simply because it has happened before. It can make something feel acceptable simply because it is known. But what is familiar is not always what is aligned. And tomorrow alignment is what matters. You are being given a rare moment. A moment where the pattern is visible before it repeats. A moment where the choice is clear before the outcome unfolds. A moment where you can step out of repetition and into transformation. Most people only recognize patterns after they have repeated them. But you are recognizing it now. Before the step. Before the decision is locked in. Before the direction is set. That is not ordinary. That is intervention. And intervention creates possibility. Because now you have the power to choose differently. To pause where you once rushed. To listen where you once ignored. To line where you once reacted. And in doing so you shift everything that follows. Michael's voice softens, but the authority remains. This is where it changes, he said. Not because something outside of you forces it to change, but because you choose to change within it. That is how patterns break. That is how cycles end. That is how new paths begin. And tomorrow is not just another step forward. It is a defining moment. A moment where you either continue what has been or step into what can be. The pattern is in front of you. The awareness is within you. The choice is yours. Type "I break the pattern" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 7777 is now activated around your transformation. There had been a voice within you, not loud, not forceful, not overwhelming, but consistent. A quiet presence that speaks in moments when everything else becomes still. A subtle nudge that does not demand your attention, yet waits patiently for you to notice it. And if you are honest with yourself, you have heard it many times before. You have felt it in moments of hesitation. You have sensed it when something didn't quite feel right. You have noticed it when a decision looked good on the surface, but something deeper within you resisted it. That voice is not random. Archangel Michael reveals this with unmistakable clarity. You have been guided, he says. But you have not always listened. This is not spoken to bring guilt. It is spoken to bring understanding. Because the voice you have been overlooking is not confusion. It is not overthinking. It is not fear disguised as intuition. It is something far more precise. It is divine guidance expressed in a way that respects your free will. It does not force you. It does not overwhelm you. It simply speaks. And then it waits. That is why it is so easy to ignore. Because it does not compete with the louder voices around you. It does not argue with your logic. It does not try to overpower your emotions. It exists beneath all of that, steady, consistent, and clear for those who are willing to slow down enough to hear it. But here is what you must understand now, especially in this moment. A voice has been speaking to you about tomorrow. You may not have recognized it as such. You may have brushed it off as a passing thought. You may have told yourself it was nothing significant. But it has been there, repeating itself in subtle ways, returning in quiet moments, showing up when you least expected it. And it has been trying to guide you. Michael's presence intensifies, not to pressure you, but to sharpen your awareness. Do not silence what was sent to guide you, he says, because that is what often happens. You feel the nudge and then you override it. You sense hesitation and then you explain it away. You notice something feels off and then you convince yourself it is fine. Not because you are unaware, but because something else feels easier, more comfortable, more aligned with what you already decided you wanted to do. And in that moment, the voice becomes quieter, not because it disappeared, but because it has already spoken. This is where many people misunderstand divine guidance. They expect it to repeat itself loudly until they listen. But that is not how it works. It speaks clearly once, sometimes twice, and then it allows you to choose. Because your choice matters. Your awareness matters. And your willingness to listen matters. Right now, you are being brought back to that voice. Not to regret ignoring it before, but to recognize it now. Because it is still speaking. You may feel it as a subtle resistance toward what you are planning. You may notice a lack of peace when you think about your decision. You may sense a quiet pull in a different direction, one that does not feel as obvious, but feels more grounded. That is not uncertainty. That is guidance. Michael steps closer, his voice steady and undeniable. Peace is your signal, he says. This is one of the most important truths you can hold on to in this moment. Because divine guidance does not confuse you. It may challenge you. It may slow you down. It may ask you to reconsider something you thought was already decided. But it does not leave you in chaos. It leads you toward peace. And peace does not mean everything feels easy. It means everything feels clear. Even if the choice is difficult. Even if it requires you to step away from something familiar. Even if it asks you to move differently than you expected. Peace remains steady. And right now, that is what you must look for. Not what feels urgent. Not what feels convenient. Not what feels expected. But what feels clear and grounded and aligned. There is something else you need to understand about this voice. It has always been there, even in moments where you felt lost, even in times where you believed you were making decisions on your own. It was present, guiding you, warning you, redirecting you, and every time you listened to it, things unfolded differently. You may not have noticed it at the time, but looking back, you can see it. Moments where you paused and avoided something you would have regretted. Moments where you listened and things aligned in ways you did not expect. Moments where you trusted that quiet knowing and it led you exactly where you needed to be. That is not coincidence. That is connection. And that connection is still active. Especially now. Especially with what is ahead of you. Michael's voice softens, but the message remains firm. You are not without guidance, he says. You are surrounded by it. That is what you must carry into tomorrow. Not doubt, not confusion, but awareness. Awareness that you are being guided in real time. Awareness that the voice within you is not random. It is intentional. Awareness that every nudge, every hesitation, every moment of clarity is part of something greater, and that something greater is trying to align you. But alignment requires listening. Not once, not occasionally, but fully, right now, in this moment, before you move, before you decide, before tomorrow arrives. The voice is still there, still steady, still clear, still guiding you. The only question that remains is this: will you listen or will you ignore it again? Because the answer to that question will shape everything that follows. Type "I listen" to the voice in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 8888 is now activated around your discernment. There is a timeline forming, not fixed, not permanent, but active. A sequence of events that has already begun shaping itself based on the direction you are leaning toward. And what you must understand now is this: every decision does not just create an outcome, it creates a timeline. A path of unfolding moments, reactions, opportunities, and consequences that extend far beyond the initial choice. Right now, two timelines exist in front of you. Not in theory, not in imagination, but in reality. Archangel Michael reveals this with unmistakable clarity. What you choose tomorrow, he says, will determine which path begins to unfold. This is not about punishment. This is not about fear. This is about cause and effect at a deeper level than most people ever pause to consider. Because when a moment carries weight like this, the consequences do not appear all at once. They unfold. Quietly. Subtly. Step by step. And that is what makes them so easy to miss in the beginning. If you ignore this warning, nothing dramatic may happen immediately. In fact, everything may seem normal. You may feel justified in your choice. You may believe everything is moving forward exactly as expected. But beneath that surface, something will have shifted. Not visibly, but directionally. Michael's voice steadies, carrying a tone that demands your attention. This alignment does not announce itself, he says. It reveals itself over time. This is where the timeline begins. First, there is a subtle delay. Something that should move easily doesn't. Something that should connect almost does, but not fully. Something that should open remains slightly out of reach. At first, it feels minor, easy to dismiss. You may not even connect it to your decision. But that is how misalignment works. It does not stop everything. It shifts enough to change the flow. Then there is confusion. Not overwhelming confusion, but enough to create doubt. Enough to make you question your next steps. Enough to make clarity feel just slightly out of reach. And in that space, you begin to second-guess yourself. Not because you are incapable, but because something has moved you out of alignment with your natural clarity. Then comes repetition. Situations begin to mirror past experiences. Conversations feel familiar in a way that is not comforting. Outcomes start to resemble things you thought you had already moved beyond. And in that moment, you begin to feel something deeper: realization. A quiet awareness that something is not quite right. But by then the timeline is already unfolding. Michael does not reveal this to create fear. He reveals it to create foresight. Because when you can see the timeline before you step into it, you have the power to change it. It is what this moment is about. Because there is another timeline. One that begins the moment you choose alignment instead of impulse. One that forms when you listen instead of override. One that activates when you pause instead of rush. And this timeline feels different from the beginning. It does not feel forced. It does not feel uncertain. It feels steady, clear, grounded. The first sign is peace. Not excitement. Not urgency. Peace. A quiet certainty that you are moving in the right direction, even if the outcome has not fully revealed itself yet. Then there is flow. Things begin to connect in ways that do not require force. Conversations align naturally. Opportunities present themselves without struggle. Timing begins to cooperate with you instead of working against you. And finally, there is confirmation. Moments that affirm your decision. Signals that reassure you that you chose correctly. Not because everything becomes perfect, but because everything begins to make sense. This is the difference between the two timelines. One leads to subtle resistance. The other leads to natural alignment. And tomorrow you stand at the point where that direction is chosen. Michael's presence becomes still, but the intensity remains. You are not being forced, he say. You are being shown. That is what makes this moment powerful. Because most people only understand consequences after they experience them. But you are seeing them before they unfold. You are being given insight before action, awareness before outcome. And that changes everything. Because now you cannot say you didn't know. And now you cannot say it was random. Now you understand that your decision is not isolated. It is connected to everything that follows. There is something else you must hold on to as you move forward. You are not trapped in either timeline until you choose. Even if you have already been leaning toward one direction, you can still shift. Even if you feel momentum pulling you forward, you can still pause. Even if you believed your decision was already made, you can still reconsider. Because this moment right now is still open. Michael's voice lowers, but it remains firm. The timeline is not sealed, he says. But it will be the moment you act. That is the urgency. Not fear, not pressure, but awareness that this window will not remain open forever. Because once you step, the unfolding begins. And at that point, you are no longer choosing the timeline. You are living it. So pause, reflect, listen. Because what happens next is not just about tomorrow. It is about everything that comes after it. Type "I choose the right path" in the comments if you receive this message. Lesson code 9999 is now activated around your future. As this revelation settles into your spirit, understand this: every timeline you help illuminate for someone else becomes a light that guides them out of confusion. This mission is not about content. It is about awakening souls at the exact moment they are about to choose their path. The Lord declares, "Those who sow in righteousness will reap a harvest of divine favor." And right now, you feel that call within you. I step forward in this moment and say, I choose to be part of this divine work. I choose to help this message reach those standing at their own crossroads. When you give through Super Thanks or through the PayPal link in the description and QR code, you are not donating. You are activating a spiritual seed that will multiply into clarity for countless lives. Do not delay this act of obedience, because what you release now will return to you in ways only heaven can orchestrate. Step forward and sow into this moment, because your seed carries light. There is always another way. Not the obvious way. Not the easiest way. Not the way shaped by habit, pressure, or expectation. But a way that exists beneath the surface of your first instinct. A way that aligns, restores, and redirects without force. And right now, as you stand on the edge of tomorrow, that way is being revealed to you. Archangel Michael does not only warn, he directs. He does not simply show you what to avoid, he shows you what to choose. And his message in this moment is clear. Do not just step away from misalignment, step into alignment. Because it is not enough to pause. It is not enough to hesitate. It is not enough to recognize that something feels off. You must also choose what is right. That is the divine alternative. It is not passive. It is intentional. It is a conscious redirection of your energy, your focus, and your action towards something that carries clarity instead of confusion. Right now, There is a part of you that already knows what that alternative is. It may not be loud. It may not be fully formed. But it is there. That quiet knowing. That subtle sense of this is the better choice. That inner pull that feels steady, even if it requires more patience, more discipline, or more trust. Michael's voice steadies your awareness. Follow what brings peace, not what demands urgency. He says, this is the first key to the divine alternative. Because urgency often pushes you toward action without reflection. It creates the illusion that something must be done now. But alignment does not rush you. It invites you. It gives you space to choose with intention. And that is what you are being called to do. To step out of reaction and into intention. To move away from what feels pressured and toward what feels grounded. There is something else you must understand about this alternative. It may not look dramatic. It may not feel like a big, life-altering move in the moment. But its impact is profound. Because alignment is not about intensity. It is about direction. And the direction you choose tomorrow will shape everything that follows. Michael reveals this with clarity. Small line steps create powerful outcomes, he says. This is where many people hesitate. They expect the right decision to feel obvious, exciting, or immediately rewarding. But often, the right decision feels calm, quiet, steady. It does not overwhelm you. It centers you, and that is how you recognize it. Not by how loud it is, but by how clear it feels. Right now, you are being asked to trust that clarity, to choose the option that aligns with who you are becoming, not who you have been, to move in a way that reflects growth, not repetition, to act from awareness, not impulse. This is the divine alternative, and it requires something from you. It requires discipline. Not external discipline, but internal discipline. The discipline to pause when everything in you wants to move. The discipline to question what feels automatic. The discipline to choose differently, even when the familiar path feels easier. Michael's presence strengthens around this truth. You are capable of this, he says. Because there may be a part of you that doubts it. A part that wonders if you will fall back into the same pattern. A part that questions whether you can truly choose differently this time. But that doubt is not truth. It is habit. And habit can be changed. Right now, you are not the same person you were the last time you faced a moment like this. You have more awareness, more understanding, more clarity. And that means you have more power. Power to choose differently. Power to respond differently. Power to align where you once reacted. This is not about perfection. It is about intention. Because even a single aligned decision can begin to shift everything. It can change your direction. It can open a new path. It can create momentum that carries you forward instead of holding you in place. And that is what heaven is inviting you into now. Not just a better choice, but a better direction. There is something else you must hold on to as you move toward this alternative. You do not need to see the entire outcome. You do not need to understand every detail of what will happen next. You only need to trust the clarity in front of you. Because alignment does not require full visibility. It requires trust. Trust in what you feel. Trust in what you know. Trust in the quiet certainty that is guiding you. Michael's voice softens, but the authority remains. Take the step that brings peace, he says. That is your instruction. Simple. Clear. Direct. Because peace is not random. Peace is alignment made visible. And right now, that is your guide. Not pressure, not fear, not expectation, but peace. So as you move toward tomorrow, carry this with you. You are not being left to figure this out alone. You are being guided toward a specific direction, a direction that protects your path, a direction that aligns your decisions, a direction that opens what is meant for you at the right time. The divine alternative is in front of you, not hidden, not unreachable, but present, waiting for you to choose it. And the moment you do, everything begins to shift. Type "I choose peace" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1010 is now activated around your direction. There is something surrounding you right now, something you cannot see, but you can feel if you become still enough. It is not pressure. It is not confusion. It is not the tension you have been sensing in the previous moments. This is different. This is steady. This is present. This is protection. Before you even became aware of this moment, before you recognized the weight of tomorrow, before this message reached you, something had already been set in motion around you. Something intentional. Something precise. Something designed not to control you, but to guard you. Archangel Michael reveals this with unwavering certainty. You are not unguarded, he says. The truth must settle deeply within you. Because when people face moments like this, moments of decision, moments of uncertainty, they often feel alone. They feel like everything depends entirely on them, on their thinking, on their ability to figure it out perfectly. And in that feeling of isolation, they become overwhelmed. They rush. They react. They move out of pressure instead of clarity. But that is not your position. You are not alone in this. You are not unsupported. You are not navigating this moment without assistance. There is a covering around you. Not symbolic, not imagined, but active. Michael's presence makes this unmistakably clear. There are forces assigned not just to observe you, but to protect your path, to ensure that what is meant for you is not easily disrupted, to prevent what is not aligned from taking root without resistance. And that is why you are feeling what you are feeling right now. Attention, awareness, that sudden clarity. It is not random. It is part of the protection. Because protection does not always feel comfortable. Sometimes it interrupts you. Sometimes it slows you down. Sometimes it makes you question something you were ready to move forward with. But that interruption is not resistance against you. It is protection for you. Michael steps forward in your awareness, his voice steady and grounded. What is meant for you will not require you to abandon clarity, he says. This is how you recognize protection in action. It does not push you into confusion. It does not rush you into decisions. It does not pressure you to act before you are ready. Instead, it creates space. Space to think. Space to feel. Space to recognize what is truly aligned. That space you are experiencing right now, that pause between impulse and action, that is not hesitation. That is covering. Because within that space, you are given the ability to see clearly, to step back, to recognize what you may not have noticed if you had simply moved forward without awareness. There is something else you must understand about this protection. It does not remove your responsibility. It does not make the decision for you. It does not override your free will. What it does is guide you. It positions you in a way where clarity becomes available, but choice remains yours. That is why this moment matters so much. Because you are not being forced into alignment. You are being supported toward it. And support is only effective when it is recognized. Michael's voice sharpened slightly, not in urgency, but in focus. Do not ignore what is protecting you. he says. Because sometimes what protects you feels like inconvenience, a delay, a hesitation, a feeling that something is not fully right. And in those moments, it is easy to push past it, to dismiss it, to override it in order to move forward quickly. But that is where people step outside of their protection, not because it disappeared, but because they choose not to engage with it. Right now, you are being asked to do the opposite, to engage with it, to recognize it, to trust that the awareness you are experiencing is not accidental, it is intentional. There is also something deeper happening here. Protection is not only about preventing harm, it is about preserving alignment, because what is aligned with your path must be protected long before it fully manifests. And that means protecting your decisions, protecting your direction, protecting your timing. That is what is happening right now. You are being protected at the level of choice, before the outcome, before the consequence, before the unfolding. And that is rare, because most people only recognize protection after something has already happened, after a mistake, after a delay, after a realization. But you are recognizing it now, in real time, before the step, before the decision is locked in. That is not ordinary. That is intentional. Michael's presence steadies once more. You are covered, he says. That is what you must carry into tomorrow. Not fear, not doubt, but awareness of the protection that surrounds you. Because when you move with that awareness, your decisions change. You no longer act out of pressure. You no longer rush out of uncertainty. You move with intention, with clarity, with trust. And trust strengthens protection. Because when you trust what is guiding you, align with it. You cooperate with it. You allow it to do what it was meant to do, which is to keep you on the path that leads to what is truly meant for you. So as you stand at this moment, as you prepare for what tomorrow holds, remember this. You are not stepping forward alone. You are stepping forward covered, guided, positioned, protected. And the awareness you carry right now is part of that protection. Do not ignore it. Do not rush past it. Do not dismiss it. Because it is there for a reason. And that reason is you. Type "I am protected" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 2020 is now activated around your path. There is a deeper truth behind tomorrow, something that goes beyond the decision itself, beyond the tension you've been feeling, beyond even the warning you've received. Because what is about to happen is not just about an action, it is about activation. And until now, that has been hidden from you. But now it is being revealed. Archangel Michael does not step forward lightly in moments like this. When he speaks with this level of clarity, it is because something significant is unfolding at a level you cannot yet see. And his message now is direct, undeniable, and filled with purpose. Tomorrow is not what you think it is, he says. That statement shifts everything. Because up until this moment, you may have believed that tomorrow was simply about making a choice, handling a situation, responding to something that has been building. But in truth, tomorrow is a doorway. Not symbolic, not metaphorical, but real. A doorway into a different level of your life. And what you do in that moment determines whether you step through it or remain where you are. This is what the spirit world has been reacting to. Not just the decision itself, but what the decision unlocks. Because there are moments in life that act as turning points. Moments where the path ahead splits, not dramatically, not in a way that feels obvious, but subtly, quietly, in a way that only becomes clear after the choice has been made. And tomorrow is one of those moments. Michael's presence becomes steady, grounded in authority. You are being positioned, he says. Positioned for what? For a shift. For a movement forward that has been waiting for the right alignment. For a level of clarity, opportunity, and direction that has been forming beneath the surface of your life. There is something you have been moving toward, even if you did not consciously realize it. Something that has been building over time, through your experiences, through your challenges, through the very patterns you are now being asked to break. And tomorrow connects to that. It is not random. It is not disconnected. It is part of a sequence that leads somewhere specific. And that is why this moment carries such weight. Because stepping through this doorway is not just about progress. It is about activation. Activation of your next level. Activation of what has been waiting for you to align. Activation of a version of yourself that cannot fully emerge until this decision is made with awareness. Michael's voice deepens slightly, not in intensity, but in certainty. You are closer than you think, he says. That truth is important. Because there may be a part of you that feels like you are still far from where you want to be. Still waiting. Still uncertain. Still trying to figure things out. But what you cannot see is how close you actually are. How near you are to a shift. How near you are to a change in direction that will begin to open things that have felt delayed. And tomorrow is connected to that closeness. This is not about perfection. It is not about making the right choice in a way that feels pressured or forced. It is about making an aligned choice. Because alignment is what unlocks the doorway. Not effort. Not urgency. Not force. Alignment. Here is something else you must understand about this moment. Once the doorway opens, things begin to move. Not all at once. Not in a way that overwhelms you. But steadily. Naturally. In a way that feels different from what you have experienced before. And that difference will come from the fact that you are no longer moving in repetition, you are moving in progression. That is the shift. From repeating patterns to creating new direction. From reacting to aligning. From uncertainty to clarity. And it all begins with what you do tomorrow. Michael steps slightly closer, his presence firm but calm. Do not underestimate this moment, he says. Because it may not look dramatic. It may not feel like a major turning point in the moment. But its impact will reveal itself over time. In the way things begin to connect. In the way opportunities begin to appear. In the way your path begins to feel more defined. That is how activation works. It does not always announce itself loudly. It unfolds. And tomorrow is the starting point of that unfolding. There is no fear in this message. Only awareness. Only clarity. Only the opportunity to step into something that has already been prepared for you. But preparation alone is not enough. Activation requires participation. And participation begins with your choice. Michael's voice softens slightly, but the message remains clear. Step with awareness, he says. Because awareness is what turns an ordinary moment into an extraordinary shift. Awareness is what allows you to recognize the doorway instead of walking past it. Awareness is what transforms your decision into alignment. And alignment is what activates what has been waiting for you. So as tomorrow approaches, hold this truth within you. This is not just another day. This is not just another decision. This is a doorway. And you are standing right in front of it. The question is not whether it exists. The question is whether you will recognize it and step through it with clarity. Because once you do, everything begins to change. Type "I step into my next level" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 3030 is now activated around your transformation. This is it. Not another warning. Not another explanation. Not another unfolding of what could happen. This is the moment where everything becomes real. The moment where awareness must turn into action. The moment where what you have heard, what you have felt, what you have recognized must now be chosen. Because tomorrow is no longer approaching blindly. You are no longer unaware. You are no longer standing in confusion. You are standing in clarity. And clarity demands a response. Archangel Michael steps forward one final time, not to repeat what has already been said, but to seal what has already been revealed. His presence is steady, unwavering, filled with authority that does not force you but calls you. You have been shown, he says. Now you must choose. That is the weight of this moment. Not pressure but responsibility. Because once you are aware of the impact of your decision, you cannot return to treating it casually. You cannot pretend it does not matter. You cannot move as if tomorrow is just another day. It is not. It is your moment. A defining moment. A moment where your direction is not decided by circumstance but by your alignment. There are no more layers to uncover. No more hidden meanings to reveal. Everything you need is already within you now. The awareness, the clarity, the understanding of what feels aligned and what does not. And yet, even with all of this, there is still one thing that cannot be given to you. Choice. It belongs to you alone. Michael's voice does not rise, but it carries a finality that cannot be ignored. Heaven will not override your will, he says. The truth must settle deeply, because it means that everything you have been shown, everything you have been guided toward will only become real if you choose it. Alignment is not automatic. Protection is not forced. Guidance is not controlling. It is offered, and now you must accept it. There is something powerful about this moment that you may not fully realize yet. You are not just choosing what to do tomorrow. You are choosing who you are becoming through that decision. Because every aligned choice strengthens alignment. Every aware decision deepens clarity. Every moment where you choose differently than you did before creates transformation. And transformation is not built in one single action. It is built in moments like this. Moments where you could repeat the pattern but you choose not to. Moments where you could ignore the voice but you choose to listen. Moments where you could move blind but you choose to see. That is what defines your path. Not what has happened before. Not what others expect of you. But what you choose now. Michael steps back slightly, but his presence remains strong. This is your turning point, he says. Not because something dramatic will happen instantly, but because the direction you set now will begin to unfold in ways you cannot reverse once they begin. That is the truth of every defining moment. It feels small until it becomes everything. So pause here, right now. Feel the weight of this moment, not as pressure, but as purpose. Recognize that you have been given something rare. Awareness before action. Clarity before consequence. Guidance before decision. And now choice before outcome. This is where everything shifts. Not tomorrow. Not later. Now. Because the decision you are preparing to make has already begun forming. And what you do with that awareness will determine what happens next. There's no fear in this. Only truth. Only opportunity. Only the chance to step fully into alignment or remain in repetition. Michael's final words carry both calm and certainty. Walk in what you now know, he says. Because knowing without acting changes nothing. But knowing and choosing changes everything. So when tomorrow arrives, do not forget this moment. You not forget what you felt. You not forget what you recognized. Do not forget the clarity that was placed in front of you. Carry it with you. Let it guide you. Let it shape your decision. And when you step with awareness, because this is not just another choice. This is your alignment. This is your shift. This is your moment. And what you do with it will echo far beyond tomorrow. Type "I choose my destiny" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 4040 is now activated around your life path. As this message reaches its final breath, understand this sacred truth. Every word you received today was not just meant for you. It was meant to flow through you into the lives of others who are standing at their own moment of decision. The Lord speaks even now. Those who sow into the light will walk in multiplied revelation, and this is your moment to respond, not with hesitation, but with obedience. I feel it rising within you, the desire to be part of something greater, to help carry this light into places where confusion still reigns. When you release your seed through Super Thanks or through the PayPal link in the description and QR code, you are not giving to a platform. You are igniting a chain of awakening that heaven itself will multiply. This is not a casual act. This is a prophetic response to what you have received. Move now, not later, because delayed obedience weakens the flow, but immediate action unlocks divine increase. Step forward and sow, because your seed will become someone else's breakthrough, and heaven will honor what you release today.